NBC News can project at this hour that the winner of the New York City mayoral race will be Zohran Mamdani, the state assemblyman from Queens, who ran an insurgent campaign that absolutely blindsided the Democratic establishment. He wiped out former Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic primary, causing Cuomo to come back and run as an independent, leading the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, as a sort of also ran. But NBC News can project that Zohran Mamdani will be the next mayor of New York City. He is not, despite popular impression, will not be the youngest man ever elected governor of New York. There have been some younger than him, but this is a very big deal, and this will have, even though New York is sui generis, New York is its own thing, this will have political shockwaves around the country for the Democratic Party and for the
Yeah, well, there you have it. We now have a socialist Democrat running New York, and or Democrat or communist, whatever it may be, and it's going to be good that it happened in New York. And that way, the rest of the country is going to get a chance to get a feel for how it's going or not going. But this isn't the first time socialism has taken effect here in America. There's been lots of earlier examples and they've never worked. From the grocery stores to and even those schools are actually kind of funded or run by the government, anyways, whether it's state or city or the Department of Education out of Washington. Uh, the schools, the buses, transportation, healthcare, all that being funded. That's kind of like Canada, but it's never worked right here in America, and there's a reason it hasn't worked because when it comes to grocery stores, do you really think the government or uh, Mandami is going to run a grocery store? No, no. They're gonna be having to hire people to work in a grocery store, and they're gonna want cash. They're gonna want payday, just like anybody else. So you're right back to competing for a being in business for profit, even though you may not be in for profit, and maybe you will be. With all the corruption going on today, there's no telling. And with that being said, I've got something coming up here about corruption because it's a lot deeper than we think. But anyways, I want to thank you all for joining. Um, this is America's first news and commentary, mine of course, and where we take a realistic look at today's unreal events. Hold on, let's check this out. Mm-mm-mm.
The founder of the crypto exchange Binance, a man named Changpeng Zhao, also known simply as CZ, is one of the latest recipients of a controversial presidential pardon. President Trump told CNN's Caitlin Collins last month that the pardon, quote, was recommended by a lot of people, unquote. And in an interview with 60 Minutes that aired last night, he reiterated a striking admission about the pardon.
Why did you pardon him?
Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that, and I heard it was a Biden witch hunt. I can only tell you this. My sons are into it. I'm glad they are because it's probably a great industry, crypto.
The president there is saying that he gave a pardon to someone that he has no idea who he is, which is a very interesting claim considering that his own Justice Department, as well as the House Oversight Committee, are currently investigating whether President Biden knew whom he was pardoning towards the end of his presidency. We'll go back.
Whether Biden knew who he was pardoning. Biden didn't know who he was pardoning. Biden didn't know what he had for lunch. And the fact that Jake Tapper is even implying that Donald Trump doesn't have control of his faculties is ridiculous. That is not what he said. What he meant when he said he didn't know it. He just told him straight up. He took the word on his sons, and he already knows what kind of witch hunt Biden and his cronies can impose on somebody. He just spent months. He spent almost a year in court over over chasing over witch hunts. And that's a real thing. And the fact that Donald Trump is just being honest enough to simply say he doesn't know him, but he knows if his son said it was a witch hunt, get him out. That was really all he had to go with. And it's not up for Jake Tapper to question or review, or the court, or anybody. The president has the authority to do that. And we know that because Joe Biden just pardoned his whole family. And another 1,500 or 15,000. He pardoned all kinds of people. And he missed a few of them, didn't he? Yeah, he missed Adam Schiff and James Comey. And there'll be more to come. But it's kind of funny. But let's take a look at some of the mishaps here with Biden.
There are fresh concerns for US President Joe Biden today after he was captured looking confused and needing assistance with basic direction during his visit to Angola. The president of Angola was forced to direct Joe Biden whilst walking and then seemed to take his arm to stop him from tripping up a step.
You know, that's the right thing for the wealthiest nation in the world to do. And today, I'm announcing over $1 billion in new humanitarian support for Africans displaced from homes by historic. Thank you very, very much.
Sent fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
I remember I got in trouble when running against the senator who was a Mormon, the governor, okay? I took him on. Everybody, no one's basically questioned.
So yeah, there's that's what I'm talking about. Jake Tapper's implying that Donald Trump doesn't have his mental capacity there to remember anything or make judgment calls. That is not the case with Joe Biden. I mean, crying out loud, the guy ran from the Easter Bunny at first, and then he walked out into the jungle. Well, you saw it all. But the reason I want to show you that last clip, you saw the gentleman with his mask on him. That is his personal aide, one of his aides. Donnelly, I think was his name. And this guy was paid $4 million to pump him up with steroids or methamphetamines. I don't know what. But his job was purely to keep him standing up in a vertical position and get him across the finish line so he could run and be the next president. And obviously that didn't happen. Let me show you this short interview here.
How much were you paid for your role in the campaign in 2024?
I was paid just a little bit short of $4 million.
I'm sorry, how much?
$4 million.
And and I'm not familiar with how these sorts of pay arrangements work on presidential campaigns. Was that all guaranteed up front, or was it dependent on any given advertisement, or was it paid out throughout the campaign? How does that work?
Well, in this situation, it was paid out in monthly payments in the campaign.
And were those payments dependent on the campaign continuing, or were you guaranteed the $4 million through the end of the race, regardless of whether President Biden finished the race?
Catholic, are you going to tie this to mental acuity?
Yes.
How?
We'll get to it.
Okay, well, if you could, explain how you're going to tie it.
Were there any circumstances in which you would have received a bonus?
Yes, it was.
What were those circumstances?
That Joe Biden would have been reelected president of the United States.
What would the bonus have been?
I believe it would have been $12 million.
In addition to the $4 million that you were already paid?
Yes.
Oh my. Yeah, you heard it. Another $4 million. $4 million to keep him standing up, and then a bonus. Another $4 million if you got elected. By the way, that was like a 4.5 minute to get those two answers out of him. I cut half of that out of there. We couldn't sit there and last through it all that time there. But anyways, it's been a late night. I'm going to wrap it up. If you guys have any comments, leave them down in the section there. And do you think socialism is going to make it? Or is this going to be the end of New York as we know it? And once again, maybe this is a good thing for the country. It'll give us a chance to see the demise. Because if New York can't make it, nobody can. Thanks. We'll see you next time on America's First News and Comments.